Hi, my name's Ellie and I have a heart condition that means my heart sometimes stops beating and I stop breathing. Hopefully my heart restarts again, otherwise I need someone to resuscitate me. As a child, I was very sporty. I loved all my sports. I was in most teams, and that went on for years throughout school until one day when I was playing football with a new football team I'd actually just joined. I had a really severe chest pain. It was absolutely excruciating to the point I collapsed and my coach ran over. He assumed that it was exercise and that I'd just done too much. It turns out my heart rate was actually going 250 beats a minute plus. And so to get it back normal, they had to stop my heart and try and get it back up again. They did this a few times and it just was not working. They had to make me physically sick to try and get my heart rate back down and it wouldn't work either. It got to a point where my parents then asked the doctors, what's going to happen to me? And I remember looking over and hearing them and they said they don't know. They wasn't sure if I was going to be okay because nothing was working. And to this day it still plays on my mind, and it's terrifying when you're 12 and you hear that and you're still young and you don't know how to think or how to feel.
Well, she'd been to football training. It was the first session after Christmas. She came home and she wasn't feeling well. She said her heart didn't feel right. I thought it was literally just a case of she'd just had her first lot of exercise for a few weeks and didn't really think much of it, but kept an eye on her. She started to go grey, her lips started to go purple, so we phoned 111. They said that they were going to send an ambulance straight away. We couldn't find a pulse, but she was clearly breathing, so we were a little bit confused by that. The paramedics arrived. They couldn't find a pulse either. It was very, very scary. Didn't really know what was happening. It happened so quickly. Kind of went into auto robot almost like. Tried not to think about how serious it was, but I must admit from that point I didn't like her being out of my sight. Even going to school, leaving her at school was quite stressful because I was worried in case it happened again because it come on so quickly.
When I was 14, they organised for me to have heart surgery to burn a pathway away that was causing these SVT attacks.
So what do you like to do in your spare time?
Gaming. Gaming all day, every day. It's the one thing that I can do that I still really enjoy, so it helps a lot.
And I take it you're a Lewis fan?
Yes. Lewis all the way.
So
Team
you've been
Lewis.
watching F1?
Yeah, I got into that this season and it again really helped just to have something to really get stuck into, and yeah, Team Lewis. In June 2021, I then got that exact same pain back again. While I was at work, I immediately called my mum because I knew that it was bad because of how it was before. We called an ambulance straight away and I was in a lot of pain. Originally they couldn't find what was wrong. My ECGs were all over the place, but they just put it down to the block because they couldn't see anything else going on until this ended up. I was collapsing for up to 4 times a day with really bad chest pain and high heart rate. I would just be sitting down watching a film, my heart rate was resting at 130 and nothing I did could keep it down, and they couldn't explain it. It then resulted to me having a 5-hour SVT attack. After I got into hospital, they had no idea how it was still going after 5 hours that fast. I was very lucky. And it was at that point I was like, I had to go to a different hospital and I had to find answers quickly because I knew that something wasn't right. And it's still being investigated. They've found 2 arrhythmias that needs monitoring closely as well. I'm on loads of different medications to try and keep my heart rate down. It's completely just changed my life. I can't eat or drink things that I used to do. I have to use a wheelchair if I'm walking around because my heart rate just skyrockets and I end up collapsing and passing out, and so I've had to make a lot of life choices to try and help. So after this 5-hour attack, I was then admitted to Addenbrooke's, and they ended up keeping me in for 10 days. I really wasn't very well. There was multiple nights where I had passed out or in my sleep or during my sleep, and I'd woken up to 6 doctors around me in a crash cart next to me, and it was extremely scary. But they knew that something needed to happen and there was something wrong. At that point I was then transferred over to Papworth too, so they could work together, because they had never seen anything like this in someone my age, and there was a lot going on that they needed a team of people to look into.
What did you do to try and help her everyday life from kind of that point onwards?
I was probably a little bit overprotective, wanting to wrap her up in cotton wool, didn't want to let her out of my sight. Fortunately, her boss and another guy she worked with were incredibly supportive. Both were capable of helping her from a medical perspective, so there was a massive sort of relief in knowing that if she wasn't with us, she was with 2 people who could look after her and take care, and also know how to respond if she had a moment. I mean, the pass outs, because they become so frequently, it was just a case of like, when she was at work, it was a case of just checking my phone because I was just waiting for that call. When we got little more snippets about what things could be, sort of did a lot of Google researching. I know they say you shouldn't do that, but I did, because I felt that the more knowledge I had, the more, although I didn't have control, I could understand it and try and support her as much as possible. I think she found it really, really hard, losing a hell of a lot of her independence. So it was a case of trying to make her have as best life as possible and carry on as best as possible under the circumstances. But I mean, gradually it has got worse. But just knowing that, you know, it's not her fault, we will get there at the end, and we're there for 100%, do anything for her.
After the first few attacks, I then decided to get an Apple Watch to help monitor my heart rate. I took ECGs on it every time I had these episodes, or just before I was having these episodes, and got some great recordings from it to help the hospitals. They actually used those recordings to help diagnose me with chronic SVT, and it definitely has helped having my friends and family support. They've always had my back. They know how to deal with me. They know how to keep an eye out for the signs and the warning signs as well. And without all that support, it would have been 10 times more difficult to deal with. One of the side effects for these SVT attacks is I enter this delusional stage. For me, I feel lightheaded and faint, and I wake up, but it turns out I'm actually quite delusional, and I'm awake, but I have no recollection of it. From what my friends and family have told me, I kind of act like a child or a drunk child. I'm hyper and want to run around even though I'm in an SVT attack, but I don't have any memory of it when I wake up. For me, it's just waking up after I've passed out. From what I've been told by the paramedics, it's just my heart's way of restarting itself, resetting itself to a normal heart rate. A friend recently raised funds for me to have a defib on the go, so I take it round with me everywhere now. It never leaves my side. It's security for if I do collapse and I need it. I've always got one with me. Every time I collapsed at work, we needed to get a defib.
Since we started filming, you and Ellie have started talking a lot more about everything that's happened to her over the years.
Yeah.
And it seems to be things that actually you haven't spoken to each other about. How has that kind of changed your relationship? Or?
Yeah, I think we've always been very, very close, and I think I didn't want her to understand from a parental perspective how scary and out of control it's been, and how it's sort of affects you as a parent. Because at the end of the day, she's young, she's got so much going on in her life from a medical perspective, which has affected her physically and mentally. I didn't want to add to that, so I kept it to myself and tried to be as bubbly and positive as possible. So when she was having her low days, to try and let her know that, you know, she's going to be fine. She's got us with her. We will get the answers.
What advice would you give to other parents possibly going through this for the first time?
Okay. Knowledge is power. The more you are aware and understand what's going on, you don't have control, but there is an element of having control to a degree. I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but when Ellie has questions or anything like that, I can at least say, right, well, from what I understand, this is this is that, and also talk, be honest, be open about how you're feeling. Although, to be honest, as a parent, I still won't ever share everything about how I feel, purely because I don't want to put that on Ellie. She has enough going on. But just being there, being supportive, helping as much as you can. And also even with the hospitals, if something doesn't feel right and you're not getting the answers you want, pursue it. Because if you don't feel there's something right, chances are you are right. We kind of experienced that ourselves. But yeah, just keep on top of things as much as you can. Be open, be honest, and be there.
The Caffeine Beat app will be life-saving, not just for me, for so many people. A heart rate is a massive indicator, I know, for me and for many others that I've spoken to in these Facebook groups. It's an indicator whether or not we're going to need help or if we're going to collapse. So to have an app that would be able to tell me your heart rate is this rate, are you okay, and I can then get the help if I don't have the opportunity to tell someone that I'm not feeling well. There's times where I can't tell anyone, it just happens, and to have an app that would be able to detect that and get me help would save my life, and it would save other people's lives.
What advice would you give to somebody else going through this for the first time?
I would say chase your doctors, just keep on. If you know that something's not right, you know yourself better than anyone, so keep pushing for answers. If you don't get what you want first time, go to someone else, go somewhere else. Just keep trying until you get the treatment and the help you need. Don't give up, just keep at it. And the other thing I'd say is just enjoy the little things as well that make you happy, and try and focus on those rather than the bigger picture.